November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving. Portland International Airport bustled with holiday travelers eager to get home. Among them stood a man in his mid-40s, wearing a dark business suit, black tie, and carrying nothing more than a briefcase. He approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter and purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle for $20 cash. The name on the ticket, Dan Cooper. Within hours, this unremarkable man would execute the only unsolved airplane hijacking in United States history, vanish into the night with $200,000, and become a legend that still haunts investigators over 50 years later. This is the story of D.B. Cooper, and it begins 30,000 feet in the air. Flight 305 departed Portland at 2:50 p.m. that Wednesday afternoon. It was a Boeing 727, about one-third full, carrying 36 passengers and 6 crew members. The flight to Seattle would take just 30 minutes. Cooper settled into seat 18C at the back of the plane and ordered a bourbon and soda. A sophisticated drink for its time, he appeared calm, collected, unremarkable. Nobody gave him a second glance. But shortly after takeoff, everything changed. Cooper handed a note to 23-year-old flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She was young, attractive, and used to male passengers slipping her phone numbers mid-flight. Assuming it was just another attempt at flirtation, she tucked the note into her pocket without reading it. Then Cooper leaned forward and said something that made her blood run cold. "Miss, you better read that note. I have a bomb." Schaffner's hands trembled as she unfolded the paper. The message was handwritten in black felt-tip pen, and it was chillingly direct. "Miss, I have a bomb here and I would like you to sit by me." "Are you kidding?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "No, miss, this is for real," Cooper replied. He calmly opened his briefcase to reveal what appeared to be 8 red cylinders, wrapped with red insulated wires, connected to a cylindrical battery. It looked like a bomb. Whether it actually was remains unknown to this day. Schaffner immediately called over another flight attendant, 22-year-old Tina Mucklow. Cooper then dictated his demands with the precision of someone who had planned every detail. He wanted $200,000 in $20 bills. He wanted 4 parachutes, 2 front chutes, and 2 back chutes. And he wanted a fuel truck standing by when they landed in Seattle. Schaffner rushed to the cockpit to deliver the message to Captain William Scott. When air traffic control in Seattle received the hijacking report, they made a decision that would change everything. Pay him, give him what he wants, let nobody get hurt. The FBI was immediately notified, and the hunt for Dan Cooper began while he was still in the air. But first, they had to get that plane on the ground safely. During the 30-minute flight, Cooper remained eerily calm. He ordered another bourbon and even paid for his drinks, a bizarre gesture of politeness in the middle of a hijacking. Tina Mucklow stayed near him, acting as his liaison with the cockpit. She later described him as calm, not cruel. He never raised his voice. He never threatened the passengers. He simply sat there waiting. When Flight 305 touched down at Seattle Tacoma International Airport at 5:39 p.m., the aircraft taxied to a remote area of the runway. What happened next was a tense, carefully choreographed exchange. The FBI had scrambled to gather $200,000 in cash, all in $20 bills with recorded serial numbers. They also provided 4 parachutes as demanded. Cooper agreed to release all 36 passengers in exchange for the money and parachutes. The passengers filed off the plane, most of them confused, unaware of the danger they had just escaped. Cooper kept the flight crew, Mucklow, and the 3 pilots, Captain Scott, First Officer William Radixak, and flight engineer Harold Anderson. They were his insurance policy. With the ransom secured and the parachutes on board, Cooper issued his next set of instructions. He wanted the plane to fly to Mexico City, but at a dangerously low altitude. The aircraft was to stay below 10,000 feet and fly at a speed no faster than 200 knots. He also demanded that the landing gear remain down and the rear air stair, a built-in staircase at the back of the Boeing 727, remain unlocked. The pilots were confused. These instructions were highly unusual and would require a refueling stop in Reno, Nevada. Cooper agreed. At 7:46 p.m., the Boeing 727 took off again, heading south toward Reno. The remaining crew members were ordered into the cockpit. Cooper was now alone in the cabin, and that's when the most astonishing part of this story begins. Somewhere over the dense forests of southwestern Washington, in the pitch-black night, Cooper made his move. At approximately 8:13 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit. The rear air stair had been activated. Cooper had opened the back of the plane. Minutes later, at 8:24 p.m., the pilots felt a sudden upward movement of the aircraft's tail section. Someone had just left the plane. When the aircraft landed in Reno and authorities rushed aboard, Cooper was gone. The rear air stair was still extended, swinging in the wind. 2 of the parachutes were missing. So was the money, and so was Dan Cooper. He had jumped from a commercial airliner at 10,000 feet in total darkness, in 42-degree weather with light rain showers, wearing only a business suit and loafers. He carried 23 pounds of cash strapped to his body, and he disappeared into the night over one of the most rugged, forested regions of the Pacific Northwest. No distress signal, no body, no trace. The FBI launched one of the most extensive investigations in its history, codenamed NORYARC, short for Northwest Hijacking. They interviewed hundreds of suspects. They analyzed the physical evidence left behind, including Cooper's clip-on tie, which was later found to contain traces of rare metals used in aerospace manufacturing, a tantalizing clue that suggested Cooper may have worked in the aviation or defense industry. But despite the evidence, despite the recorded serial numbers on every single $20 bill, and despite the thousands of leads that poured in, the FBI could not identify Dan Cooper. For 9 years, the case went cold. And then, in February 1980, something extraordinary happened. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was camping with his family along the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington. While helping his father build a campfire, Brian started digging in the sand. His hand struck something unusual. It was a bundle of rotting $20 bills, still held together by rubber bands. When authorities examined the bills, the serial numbers matched. It was $5,800 from Cooper's ransom. But how did the money get there? That question remains one of the greatest mysteries of the case. Scientists later examined the bills and found microscopic diatoms, a type of algae embedded in the paper. These diatoms were a spring species, meaning the money had been submerged in water sometime between May and June, months after Cooper's jump in November. This discovery shattered several theories. It meant Cooper didn't land directly in the river that night. It meant the money traveled through water long after the hijacking. But it also meant the rest of the ransom, nearly $200,000, had never been found, never been spent, and had seemingly vanished along with Cooper himself. Did Cooper survive? The FBI doesn't think so. They believe the jump was too dangerous, the conditions too harsh, the terrain too unforgiving. Cooper had no proper skydiving gear, just a business suit and loafers. He jumped into freezing rain in complete darkness, with no knowledge of where he would land. The area below was a mix of dense forests, rivers, lakes, and mountains. Even experienced skydivers called the jump suicidal. One of the parachutes Cooper took was a training chute, its canopy sewn shut, meaning it was completely useless. If he chose that one, he fell to his death. If he chose the other, he still had to survive the landing, avoid drowning in a freezing river, navigate miles of wilderness, and do it all while carrying 23 pounds of cash in deteriorating weather. The odds were impossibly low. And no body was ever found. No additional money ever surfaced. No deathbed confession ever emerged. And that's what makes this case so endlessly fascinating. Cooper either died in the wilderness, his remains consumed by nature, or he pulled off the perfect crime, walking away with $200,000 and a new identity. Either way, he became a ghost. Over the decades, hundreds of suspects have been investigated. Arthur Lee Allen, a schoolteacher and convicted sex offender, was scrutinized for years, but never charged. Richard Floyd McCoy, who committed a nearly identical hijacking just months later, was considered a prime suspect until DNA evidence ruled him out. In 2024, siblings Shante and Rick McCoy III came forward, claiming their father, Richard McCoy Jr., was actually D.B. Cooper, and they even presented a parachute they said was found in their mother's shed. But the FBI remained skeptical. In July 2016, after 45 years of investigation, the FBI officially closed the case. They redirected resources to other priorities, but they left the door open. If physical evidence emerges, they said, we'll look at it. Until then, D.B. Cooper remains a mystery. What makes this case so compelling isn't just the audacity of the crime, it's the questions that linger. Who was Dan Cooper? Was he a disgruntled airline employee? A former paratrooper? A desperate man with nothing to lose? Why did he demand 4 parachutes instead of just 1? Some believe it was to make authorities think he had hostages, forcing them to provide functioning chutes instead of sabotaged ones. Why did he jump in the worst possible conditions? Was it desperation? Or did he know something investigators didn't? And perhaps the biggest question of all, did he survive? The romantic part of us wants to believe he did. That somewhere out there, an old man sits on a porch sipping bourbon, grinning at the legend he created. But the evidence suggests otherwise. The money never circulated, the remaining parachutes were never found, and Cooper himself never resurfaced. If he survived, he took the secret to his grave. The case of D.B. Cooper is more than just an unsolved hijacking. It's a story about human audacity, about the limits of law enforcement, and about the enduring power of mystery. It's a case that inspired movies, books, songs, and decades of speculation. It changed airline security forever, leading to the installation of the Cooper vane, a device that prevents the rear air stair from being opened mid-flight, and it created a legend that refuses to die. 53 years later, we're no closer to the truth. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some mysteries are meant to stay unsolved. Maybe D.B. Cooper's greatest achievement wasn't the money he stole, or the plane he hijacked. Maybe it was the legend he left behind. A legend that asks one simple, haunting question. Can someone really just disappear? In the case of D.B. Cooper, the answer is yes. And that's what keeps us searching for the truth. This has been Verdict Unlocked. The case remains open. The mystery remains unsolved. And somewhere out there in the forests of Washington, or in the pages of history, D.B. Cooper waits to be found.